Hey guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. I am your host, Devon Harris. And you know what we do here? Yeah, man, we share ideas and insights that we hope will challenge you and inspire you to live your absolute best life. So if that's something you're interested in, you are definitely in the right place. So welcome. It's great to have you on Keep On Pushing TV. So our guest today was never the smartest. He was never the biggest. He was never the most talented, was never the most gifted. In fact, the guy failed 5th grade. He watched his parents got divorced while he himself contemplated suicide. But you know what he was though? He was the guy who looked adversity in the face and says, yeah man, bring it on. Bring it on. And it's because of that relentless attitude that he was able to go from being a walk-on to receiving a full scholarship to play Division I football at Ole Miss, University of Mississippi. And then he became a starter on that team. And from there, Mr. Relentless himself went on to create and develop a very successful speaking and training business, developed a successful real estate investment company, and now is the owner of a CrossFit gym. I am so honored, pleased to be able to welcome to the show Richie Contartesi. Richie, thanks for being on Keep On Pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here. I know you're honored. Hey, look, I'm really honored to be on a podcast with Cool Runnings himself, the man the movie was made about. So glad to be here.
Hey, it happens, man. It's I know it's been a few years now since we've been trying to connect, and hey, what better way to do it than on this podcast? Keep up with Mr. Relentless. So it's awesome. But people will look at you now. The picture of success. I'm sure some people is how some people would describe you, and all they see is a finished product. They don't understand the journey that you had to go through. How long and challenging that journey was. Can you take us back a little bit and tell us about those early days?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I think it's actually funny because like when people, they really think, they look at it and they're like, oh, this person got lucky or this was easy. People will always be jealous of what you have, right? But they'll never be jealous of what you had to do to get it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, when you look at somebody and you say, hey, they're getting it, but that person, like with that relentless mindset, they might say, hey, that person might say, hey, you look like you're successful, you're doing it. But if you have that relentless mindset, you don't ever feel like you're successful. You're always like, what's next? What's the next adventure? But yeah, to take you back a little bit. You did a great job of kind of sharing the backstory, but started out 5th grade. My dream was to play college football. Stopped growing at 5'7", 150 pounds. So
right. Sounds like trying to push a bobsled uphill to me, but go ahead.
So it was a little bit, that obviously hurt the eye test. High school, ended up doing well, but always having trouble with competing with other receivers. I played wide receiver and just had trouble competing at a high level. And unfortunately, my senior year, I broke my ankle, and any opportunity went out the window.
Yeah.
Kind of go anywhere. Ended up getting one opportunity at a school called Jacksonville University, a school you probably never heard of. It's not even Division I. Had no scholarships. Ended up getting cut from that team after my freshman season. A new coach came in, and I kind of sat at a crossroads there. And actually, when I broke my arm when I was 12 years old, I met a trainer by the name of Kyle Strongen, and I had continued to kind of build this relationship. He saw this kind of relentless attitude, this guy that didn't quit and didn't care what other people thought, zero fear of failure. And when I found out I got cut from Jacksonville, I always kind of stay connected with him. And he was a football coach, and he ended up getting an internship to coach the football team at Ole Miss. I called him up and said, hey, man, can I get into Ole Miss? Can I play at Ole Miss, right?
So, Richard, before you get into that story, how did the love of football, that desire to play college football, started?
Oh man, when I was a kid, me and my best friend, we used to just go outside, and we always had the football. Like obviously we didn't we're in the neighborhood. We didn't really have a lot of like Nintendos and all this stuff. So all we had was a football. And so we just like literally for hours and hours would play football. And if we weren't playing football, we were watching football. And so it's just kind of like how, it was
just kind of grew into it.
Yeah, it was like all that was really there, and we just competed and we just loved it. So that's kind of how it got started.
Interesting. So you stopped growing. You're 5'7", you said 150.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing all through grade school you're playing football, but then you failed 5th grade as well. So you're a small guy. You're not doing well in school. What's going on there?
Yeah, school was tough for me. It definitely wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I have, they said I had dyslexia and ADHD, all these things, right? And I literally just couldn't sit in my chair. I wanted to be outside playing. I couldn't sit in the classroom. And my 5th grade teacher came up to me and literally said to me and actually my parents that I would never be worth anything.
Wow.
And she just was like, she hated me. I wasn't the best student, so I don't blame her. But, school was it was really hard for me. It wasn't something that came natural. So I struggled and I rebelled and I just didn't like it. So, I was kind of lost in that area.
So how old were you when you contemplated suicide?
I was in 5th grade. After I failed. Because I failed 5th grade, it was just after my parents got divorced and things weren't going well, right? Like my parents had split, and that was really crazy because they were arguing and fighting every day, and my sister was crying every day, and failed 5th grade, and I was like told I was not worth anything, and so I was like, just like, what's the point,
Yeah. And it's for those people who have struggled with depression and even contemplated suicide. Fortunately, I've never been there, so I can't speak as an expert from this. But it obviously is a dark time in someone's life.
For sure, yeah. Depression is not easy. Like it's something that I wouldn't say depression as much as anxiety is something that I definitely have challenges with. Just a lot of it has to do with like always wanting to do better and to do more and putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Like people don't really put pressure on me. I put a lot of pressure on myself.
That's the relentless mindset right there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not easy, but I mean, it's like, how do we deal with that? Right. And I think there's different ways, and having goals and having something to go after. It's kind of, football is what saved me. It doesn't mean it has to save you, right? But that's what saved me.
Gotcha. So you mentioned goals and you mentioned football. So were you in the 5th grade when you decided that you wanted to, you went online and checked out the requirements to play Division I?
Exactly. Yeah. So like while I was going through this rough time, I still have it. I printed out the University of Miami, of course, like one of the hardest academic schools, but I printed out the University of Miami. It was like a stack this thick of what the requirements were in order to get in and play college football there. And at that time, I obviously had no idea what I was doing, but that saved my life because when I looked at it, I didn't look at it and say, haha, I can definitely do that.
Right.
I looked at it and I was like, maybe I can do this. This isn't as hard as I thought it was. I don't need to have straight A's. And once I printed that out, I had like a tangible, it was like what people call today a vision board, right?
Yeah.
It was a board that I had tangible, and I looked at it every day, and it changed the way I thought. Subconsciously, I did things differently to attract myself closer to it. So
But help me though, Richie, because it's pretty remarkable. Here it is that you're in 5th grade, you feel like your life sucks, you're contemplating suicide, and you had the wherewithal to to dream a big dream of going to college? How there seems like there's a disconnect in there somewhere.
I mean, like I said, I loved, there was the only thing, this was the only thing that made me happy, that I loved.
Right.
And I was lucky enough to have found it. I think what most people do is even if they do find something that they love or they want, they look at it and they say it's too difficult and they never do anything.
Yeah.
Right. And just kind of don't. So I was just in a place in my life where literally obviously super young, and I had a decision. I was either going to do this or do nothing.
Yeah.
And when I looked at that, for some reason, I said, I can possibly do this. And at that moment, like, I made a decision, and there was no turning back. There was no plan B. I was going to do this.
Yes.
Don't know how, but one day at a time, I'll figure it out. And that's kind of,
no, it's an insightful point you make. You know, Tony Robbins speak about, you know, making a decision, you know, that the word decide has two root meanings. The means to cut off from, and side to kill off. And so when you and I, or our listeners, make a decision, when we decide, when we cut off any possibility except, man, this is how it's going to be, then you change your life. And that's the story you're telling us today. You made that decision, you cut off any other possibility except this is how it's going to be, and your life changed. You set some goals, which, as you said, they were kind of beyond you. You didn't see them as impossible, but they were a little bit beyond you, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and so the lesson here, because one of the reasons why we're talking is because I want to tell your story and highlight the lessons from your experiences, you know. And a lot of times people set goals and they don't set them high enough. They set them low and they hit them. And yeah, they make some progress, but they're falling really short of where they could have been. Or they may see a huge goal and they become intimidated by it, not realizing that the goal is meant to be big, to stretch you out of your comfort zone. So here it is that you at fifth grade, 11 years old maybe? You are...
Yeah, I think it was 10, something like that.
Right. So you have your vision board, and you're working, you're putting the plan in place. You go to a college, Jackson, and you get cut, and now you're connecting or reconnecting with this former coach of yours.
Yeah, and that's why I talk so much about relationships and the importance of, building relationships, mutually beneficial relationships. And that's how I got this 1 hour tryout at Ole Miss, is because with a relationship I built with somebody when I was 12 years old, with what happened to me my senior year of high school, somebody that I can just continue to stick with. And he was able to constantly see who I was as a person and that drive and how bad I wanted it, that when he was able to put himself on the line to get me this shot, he felt comfortable, able to do it and able to do that. Right. And so like, I always say, like, how do we build these relationships? Because whether you're an entrepreneur, you're in sales, you have a job, you want to build better relationships with your kids or your spouse or family members or whoever, I always say, think in terms of value, and what value are you bringing to that human being?
Right.
What are you doing to make that person's day a better day in every interaction that you make? And so, that's kind of with Kyle, every interaction that I made with him and everything that I did, for the most part, was always about, like, value was always being traded from him to me, from myself to him. And when it came time to, hey man, I know you're at Ole Miss, this is my last chance to get in, he was able to make that happen. So I think relationships are huge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Building those strong relationships. But at the same time, the other thing I'm hearing from you, though, is that because of your character, because he knew you were a worker, that he was reluctant to go to the coaches at Ole Miss and say, hey, this kid might be a little bit undersized, in stature, but he has a big heart. You need to at least look at him.
Yeah. So he actually told me this when he went to talk to the coaches. He was like, because he didn't want to like throw himself under the bus. So when he went and talked to the coaches, he was like, this guy is not going to be the biggest. He's definitely not the most talented or the fastest, but I'll tell you what he will do. If you give him a chance to try out, I guarantee he'll make it. And he said, this guy will make everybody around him better. He'll make the team better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they gave me a chance. Not because how great I am and all of this other stuff, right? How big I am, how talented.
It's your body of work leading up to that point. So you get a 1 hour trial. That's all they gave you for the rest of your life.
It wasn't even an hour. Yeah. It's like one shot.
Yeah. How did that work out?
So actually drove all the way up to Mississippi. Just
how long a drive is that?
I grew up in South Florida, so it was about 15 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Drove up, didn't even have a place to live. I was literally on my way up trying to find a place to live. And, I was like, I'm going to school at Ole Miss, I guess now. This happened 3 weeks before school season started. And so go to Ole Miss that first day of school, and I was just scared out of my mind, man. I was so nervous. Walked into the indoor practice facility, watched guys like Michael Orr from The Blind Side and Mike Wallace and Dexter Cluster and all these big guys. And I was just like absolutely horrified, right? Like fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what people think about me. You name it, man. And I'm just sitting there. And I was like, I got one shot, one opportunity at this thing. I prepared myself as much as I possibly could. And I just went out and did my absolute best.
And how did that end up? Did they take you on the team right away?
All right. So I leave the tryout and I was like, did I do good? Did I not do good? I wasn't really sure.
Right.
Finally, my phone rings. It's Kyle. So I pick up the phone. And he says, do you want the good news first or the bad news? And I was like, just give me the bad news, get it over with.
Yeah.
And he goes, you didn't make the team. I was like, how?
You drove 15 hours. You didn't make the team.
I was like, you better give me that good news right now. And he goes, you didn't make the team, but the coaches have decided that they're going to extend you a 1 week tryout, basically, to prove to the coaches that you could take the hits. Yeah. I was like, all right, let's go. Bring it. So the next day I walked into the locker room. Everyone else had a plated locker. I had this little piece of tape with my name written on it.
Yeah.
Some oversized pads. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to go all in. I don't care what people think. And that's what I talk about, this relentless mindset. And that's kind of what my whole brand is about is not – we can't care what people think. Like, do you have kids?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. How old are your kids?
Oh, I have 5. So from 29, 22, 21, 12, and 9. So
holy smokes. Okay.
Yeah, man. They say make hay while the sun shines. It's been sunny.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you.
Oh, thank you. No, it's like that's the best thing in my life, though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, yeah, I actually have one on the way. So first
nice.
one.
Congrats.
5 I got on the way.
How soon? How soon? You said
I got 9 weeks left.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
So soon.
It's gonna be a wild ride.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I always say this. Look, you look at kids. They have. You look at a 2-year-old. They have zero fear of failure. Mm-hmm. They don't care at all what people think, and they are relentless until they get what they want at all costs. Mm-hmm. They just do not care what people think. And we're only born with 2 fears. We're born with the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. And over time, we learn that being wrong is bad. We learn that failing is bad. And we embody this, and it literally shapes who we are as people. And I think the people that can let go and reignite that relentless drive and passion that they once had and just don't care what people think and have zero fear are the ones that break through barriers and obstacles that get in our way, right? So like, I mean, I sat there and I was like, I got 1 shot left. I mean, I got to walk out that tunnel out onto the field with Michael Orr from the blind side, and I have to have zero fear. And I can't care what people think. And I can't worry about the linebacker crew laughing at me and rejecting me. And I can't have fear of the unknown. What if I get hurt? So I just said, I just let go and just unleashed and ran out onto the field and did my absolute best.
And you got, so that was the start of that was your 1 week trial. And how were things after that? What happened?
Yeah, so 1 week trial, ended up making the team, of course. Head coach Ed Ogeron, who's now the head coach at LSU, came up to me on Friday before our last practice was actually Thursday after. He came up to me, put his arm around me, and he was like, dang. He's like, I wasn't expecting that. And I literally just would find the biggest guy and run full speed and try to hit him. And just like, in all the drills, I was just like, I just wanted to prove I had to prove myself. And so that whole year built this whole reputation. End of the season, head coach gets fired. Ed Ogeron gets fired.
Right.
And so I come back, new head coach, and I had to do exactly what I did the first year all over again. And then the second year, because I was a small guy, I was a walk-on, I was right back on the practice squad again. And going into my senior year, it was like, this is it. I got one shot left. And I spent that whole summer in the head coach's office trying to find out what I can do. I was in the weight room every day, in the film room every day, on the field working on my craft every day, man. And doing all of this, even though I wanted to quit every day, I was like, there's no way I'm going to play. There's no way this is going to work out.
And that's, if I could stick a pin there, talk to me a little bit about that, because, what I'm hearing is a guy is hungry, a guy's working really hard and just can't seem to catch a break. It's like there's just, you get over the hump and then there's another obstacle in the way. So when that happens to us in our lives and you feel like, man, I can't catch a break, I feel like throwing in the towel, what are you saying to yourself? And what should our listeners or viewers be saying to themselves during those times?
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where I'd walk out onto the field and I'd be holding my helmet, right? And I'd be saying to myself, like, you're not good enough to be out here. You're not talented to be out here. You're not big enough. And it was like, and this is what I call, I used to call it a delusional mindset, but now I call it a relentless mindset. And that's like, I don't know, man, Devon. I don't really know why or how this is going to work out in the end, but I just trust that it will. Like it sucked, man. Like there were some practices. I didn't want to go to practice that day. There was some, I just didn't want it. And but at the end of the day, I got up and I went anyways. I didn't know why. It was like this delusional, relentless mindset that said, hey, Richie, I don't care how you feel or what you think's going to happen. Just stick it out and see what, and I just I just felt like it would work out. I didn't know how, who was going to quit or what was going to happen, but I was going to get my shot.
So you made two really important points, Richie. So this people see athletes, whether they're pro athletes or the Olympics or whatnot, and think they're just having the best life ever. They're doing something that they absolutely love, and they don't know that there are days when you just do not want to go to practice, right? But you make yourself do it anyway because you recognize and you know what the end goal is. And in our lives, maybe it's a sales guy who just doesn't want to make that one call, whether to pick the phone up or go knock on the door or whatever it is. But if you're keeping the end in mind, you're going to get up just like that athlete does. But you use the word delusional. And would you believe, apart from keep on pushing, every interview that I've done on this program, the word delusional comes up. And there seems to be something about that, right? Because I think, when you set up, a big, ridiculous goal, you have to be delusional to think you can accomplish it, because there's nothing in your past and there's certainly nothing in your present that suggest that it's possible, except what's going on up here. You know, especially if you're 5'7" and you're trying to play Division I football against Michael Orr, right? And so I think the delusion gives rise to the relentless, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure. It's a chicken or egg kind of situation here, but yeah.
I like called it a delusional mindset because like I really didn't know, I couldn't put a name to it.
Yeah.
And then like as I started thinking and I started understanding more about this, like what really embodies a relentless human being, and why Tom Brady exists, why does Michael Jordan and Kobe and Dwayne Wade and Steve Jobs, and like how are these people able to achieve these levels of success but then continue to do it over and over again. And like and that's how I found Relentless. And I think delusional, it's a word because it's like we're like, I don't know, I don't understand why, it's just the way that we felt, right?
You know, and I look at that too, and I often I remember I used to say to people, I may be delusional, but I think I'm going to make it to the Olympics. I want to go to the Olympics. I may be delusional, but I think I have the ability to win a medal, right? Okay, I didn't win a medal, but I thought it. And more than that, I believed it. I felt that it was possible. And I think to achieve these goals, to get from wherever it is any of us are starting from, because we all start from different places, but we all have the ability and we all dream about, you know, grander, so to speak. Yeah, you have to be delusional to be relentless or to keep on pushing. So,
for sure.
So you go through all that, and it's your senior year, and what's going down there?
So senior year, I had been practicing on special teams all summer, just trying to do whatever I could to find a spot. And finally, I got a spot on special teams. You know, I spent 3 years on Thursday after practice running to the board where they post the dress list for the game, and never done it. Like, and I was like, if I can just get a spot on special teams, I can get on that list.
Right.
That was my goal, is to be able to travel and go to the games and be on the sidelines. Because when I say travel, that's home games too in college. You travel, home games.
Right.
And so finally I got that spot on special teams. And during the season, or during the camp before the season, there's some things that I did really well and some recruits that just didn't. And so I started earning a spot outside of special teams, and one thing led to another. And and so the final scrimmage before camp, I was warming up, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and it was the head coach. And he said to me, Richie, you've given me no choice. You're now on scholarship. Congratulations. And that's when I found out.
Right. What did that moment feel like?
Man, it's like that moment, like when you find, like, even if you've been working on something, it's not something easy, but something you've been working on for a long time, and you get it, and you get like those tingles that go down your head and your neck. And like, I just wanted to like call my dad and call my mom, and I was so excited. And like, I ran after the scrimmage, I ran to my truck and called my dad and called my mom, and I was just like super excited. And it was just that feeling of like, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, you look back, and I thought about that Miami packet, and I was like, it actually happened. Like it did. Yeah. You know, it was 10 years later, right?
Yeah.
But it happened.
It takes time for dreams to blossom into reality. And that's the thing that people don't recognize. And it's 10 years of literally, you know, sweat and blood and sweat for you. 10 years of frustration, 10 years of always having an obstacle every time you thought you were going to be making a move forward. 10 years of, you know, one step forward, two step back. But I think what your story clearly demonstrate, Richie, is that success is possible for all of us. You know, no honest person would say it's easy. You know, there's nothing in the stories you're just telling me that sounded easy. But now you're in easy street, so to speak, as far as all the work that you have done, because I've set you up now to push yourself to the next level. So talk to me a little bit about post-college life.
Yeah, so got out of college, moved straight to New York City, actually,
Yeah.
and ended up working in sales, and did pretty well. Ended up winning this Rookie of the Year belt at a Fortune 500 company in their sales team. And after 2 years, I was like, I want to start my own thing, and moved down to Santiago, Chile. Tried to get a government grant, keyword tried,
Right.
and moved down there for 6 months, and nothing worked out. And the business that we started failed. I started with 2 other people. So I moved back to New York to live on 2 different friends' couches over probably about a 5-month period, trying to get something started. I worked like all day, all night. My buddy was building websites, and I was trying to get him business to do it.
Right.
And it just was extremely difficult. And then did that for about maybe 4 to 6 months, then moved to Virginia, because I literally was down. I had no money left. I was out. And lived in my dad's basement for about a year while I built up this website business with my buddy. After about a year, I had enough money where I can get my own place. So I moved to a place that was pretty inexpensive in Naples, Florida. And I missed Florida, but I couldn't live in Palm Beach too much. So I found Naples, Florida, moved down there, and started building this business. And it was just, I couldn't get it off the ground. I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the right mindset, didn't have enough money to work with or play with. And I could have done other things, but I didn't do it right. Now I know, but I should have done a better job of finding the right people to surround myself, the right mentors. And then once we just had 2 months of no clients and we were almost out of money, and I was like, I can't pay my rent. My partner quit on me. And I had this like epiphany at that point where I was like, I'd been here before, you know. I was like, I know how to handle this. I'll figure this out. And that month I ended up without him closed 3 of the biggest website deals that we've ever done.
Right.
And I was like, here we go. I got to find somebody who can do this now. Right.
Yeah.
I was on the front end side.
Yeah.
And so I found people to do it. And then I started building up, and I got bigger and bigger and bigger. So I moved back to New York and got to New York, and I had already started writing my book a while back, and the book started coming out, and I started telling people and sharing people, and when I started getting out there and it hit #1 on Amazon, people started requesting me to come out and speak. And so I started out speaking at middle schools and high schools. And then one thing led to another. And the teachers were like, hey, like, we really love your message and what you're sharing. We needed to hear that. So I was like, oh, okay. And so then I started doing corporate events, and then that built out. And now I'm really focused on corporate events, doing sales teams, or I'll do conferences with entrepreneurs. And it's the same thing, man. What I learned in football is the same thing I learned in speaking.
Right.
I learned in speaking, I started investing in real estate, and it's the same thing. We've hit rock bottom. We figured it out. We overcame. It's the same thing with the gym. We had issues, problems. I'm building out a brand new location. I have a great team. And now our next step is to start franchising it. So it's like, it's the same concepts. It's just at the end of the day, there's times when I was going through the gym where I was like, I just want to be done. I want to sell it. I want to be done. I don't want to think about it anymore. This is too scary, too fearful, too much, I'm going to lose too much money. And at the end of the day, I just woke up and I was like, I'm just going to do a little bit more.
Right.
I want to be done with it. I'll just do a little bit more.
Yeah, so it sounds to me, and I think the pattern that's common to every successful person, right? If you go through and you read biographies, what you say is struggle, 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 a little bit of success, or some success, more struggle, 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 more success. And you learn, as you just said, that it's the same principles is the word I would use, that you apply to one area of your life just in order to succeed, that you can then apply to another area or other areas of your life to succeed as well. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
So yeah, you have been through, some challenging times, but I think what those experiences have done is I've left you with some amazing stories that you can use, obviously, to inspire yourself, to keep being relentless and push yourself to the next level, but to help other people do the same thing. Because I'm sure you've had this experience where you look at someone and you go, wow, if they can do it, then I can do it. Have you?
100%.
Yeah. And I think what's great about your story is that someone will look at you and go, wow, you know what? If a 5'7" guy can play Division I football on a scholarship, I can do this too. It's not so hard, So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you hanging out with us. So now you're working primarily with entrepreneurs, sales teams, to teach them the relentless mindset.
Exactly. Yeah. So mainly focusing with working with corporations and coming in and working with their sales teams when they usually will have sales kickoffs or sales events, and they'll bring me in to speak, and I kind of help them with the tools and relentless mindset needed to get to that next level.
Right.
So we'll do conferences where they'll have a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of salespeople. And again, we'll come in and do keynotes and stuff like that for them.
So tell us then, tell our listeners where they can find you if they want to, be inspired with this relentless mindset.
Absolutely. Easiest website, ready? Relentlessrichie.com.
Relentlessrichie.com. That is easy. I thought mine was easy, but yours is easier.
RICHIE, Relentless Richie.
Yes. So folks, relentlessrichie.com. It's an amazing story, as you can hear. And Richie is passionate. He's engaging. He is powerful. He's really everything you're looking for in a speaker. An amazing story and an uncanny ability to tell that story. Relentless Richie mindset. Sorry, relentlessrichie.com.
Yes.
Relentlessrichie.com. Check him out. Relentless Richie, I am appreciative. Thank you so much for sharing your relentless mindset on Keep On Pushing. We wish you all the success, man. Keep on being relentless.
Awesome. Thank you. It was really a pleasure being here, and I wish all of your viewers a lot of success as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Keep on pushing, Richie.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that subscribe button and hit that bell. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. And don't forget, share it with your friends, man. They want to be inspired as well, right? So share it. Don't keep it. And before you go on to the next video, visit my website, www.devonharris.com. Keep on pushing.